Welcome to the Commission on Aging meeting for May 2023. Thanks to everyone for coming. Our special guest today is Steve Mulvaney, who is coming to us from P&Z to discuss senior issues. Thanks for being here. I also want to welcome Tom Dempsey again, this time as a member of the Commission on Aging. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. So our first order of business is the discussion of the April minutes. Anybody have any questions, changes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the April minutes? Thank you so much. Second? Thank you. All in favor? I appreciate that. Mather Center report. Beth?
Okay, I will be brief and quick since Steve is here and we all want to hear what he has to say. So we have, Caitlin has hit the ground running, our new program specialist. So the June newsletter is already out, which is really, really the way that we want it to be, so people start to sign up. We are for the first time having a complimentary lunch done by Waverly Life Care Network. First 35 people to sign up will have a complimentary lunch, but more exciting is about the topic. They're actually going to do a wonderful topic on short-term Medicare covered benefits with the addition of telemedicine. Telemedicine is approved for Medicare for at-home services when you're covered for a period of time. And they all also are going to talk about they've taken over the telemedicine for the town of New Canaan. So basically it is a fee-for-service program if you ever wanted it afterwards. So if you were somebody who was home and had some issues that were chronic and you wanted to pay for a monthly service to be able to talk to a nurse whenever you wanted, or to talk about a health concern, this is available. So they're going to highlight that program a little bit too. We put in already for June new exercise classes. We have a class on Wednesday at 9:30, stand, sit, and dance. We have on Thursday cardio drumming, which some folks have seen that already, but it's going full force now. And then a slow flow yoga, which is a traditional yoga on the floor because we've gotten people who have requested to do traditional yoga. They can have yogurt after they do the yoga on the floor. So we are listening to folks as people are coming up with suggestions for us. We are really into planning till December at this point. It's amazing how many people are back, how many new people are coming in. I'll let Chris talk about the at-home event that we're doing tomorrow in collaboration with each other. The really neat thing is there's probably about 50 to 55% of the people on that list that I know, and then there's others I don't. So this is a great opportunity to bring other folks that are utilizing at home to come into the center. And our Darien membership is increasing by the day, which is really good too. So highlights and happenings is out. That anyone who's on Channel 79 watching us, sign up as soon as you can because that's going to fill up really fast because of the topic more than anything else. But if you have the complimentary lunch, you definitely have to stay for the presentation. Also, wonderful Jim Cameron from Channel 79 has a student intern that he is lending to us. We met with her yesterday. Her name is Brianna Casada. And she's going to be doing a live tour of the Mather Center that we're going to be able to link onto our website. And it's very creative young gal, so I think it's going to come off sort of like as an advertisement too, but we're going to show it empty and then we're going to show it filled. So it's a wonderful idea of Jim. We thank him for that and then for passing along this lovely young lady. She might actually come tomorrow and shoot a little bit of our event too, so that'll be good. So it'll be nice for us to have something on our site. I know the town is about to work on a new website as well for all the departments. So this would be nice for us to have some links for where we want people to go when they come to visit our site too. So
Awesome.
That's it.
Thanks, Beth. Any questions for Beth? Hearing none, we'll move on to Human Services report. Ally.
Good morning. So renters rebate started this week. Just a reminder, that's for anyone over 65 or a person who has a disability and on Social Security disability. The income limit is $40,000 for a single person and $49,100 for a married couple. And the nice thing about this is people get an actual check in the fall, in October or November, if they're eligible for the program, up to $750. So it's always, the seniors look forward to it. So that just started, and that goes all the way until September, so there's plenty of time. The one other thing, I think I might have mentioned it a while ago, but the mental health first aid trainings. Mental health first aid is an 8-hour certification course, and it teaches anyone how to, well, I'll read how they describe it. It gives members of the public skills to help someone who's developing a mental health problem or experiencing a mental health crisis. So like CPR, but for mental health issues. And actually, Paula Sutliff, the public health nurse, and I both got trained because we'd been paying an instructor last year outside. So we did our first training in January with department heads and other staff who work in town. And it went very well. And now we have another one this week. It's open to anyone in Darien or anyone who serves a Darien community. So we do have a few spots left. It's next Tuesday and Thursday from 8:30 to 1 at Post 53, and it's free. We are using ARPA funds to pay for it. And every person who's attended it has said nothing but positive things for it. And Caitlin is going to be joining us next week. So we're also going to have another one. We're going to do at least 3 a year. So August 1st will be the next one, which we haven't even publicized. We just decided on that date yesterday, August 1st and 3rd. So you can just email me if you're interested. It's a great program. And next week is the last week for energy assistance, and then it just starts up again in the fall. So anyone, we do have a few people coming in last minute if you're heat with utilities, not with oil. And right now we have one new protective service case for the elderly, working closely with Chris on that one. And that's about it. And then the usual, reminder, our loan closet. I feel like it's almost daily we're having somebody come in for it, which is great. I was like, I never knew about the service, and people are spreading the word. So that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. Any questions for Ally? Hearing none, thank you so much. And now to our main topic of this meeting, Steve Mulvaney from Planning and Zoning, coming to talk to us about the various issues going on down there. What's going on, my man?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Glad to be back. Thanks for being invited. We always have a couple little balls in the air in the P&Z world. This week, I think there's probably only 10, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Joe invited me over today, and I love coming to meetings. I just wanted to update you on a couple different things. I've been here a bunch of different times. We talk about sidewalks and walkability and whatnot for the town. But some of the things I just wanted to start with, which to me is really, it is kind of sort of a senior issue in town. It's in other towns. Is we're trying to craft legislation for accessory dwelling units. Mm-hmm. In Fairfield, the town of Fairfield, they recently put it in, and the people that really latched on to it a lot were the seniors in Fairfield. It can come one of multiple different ways, and I always talk about my friend Gene Coyle, who's now watching over us from high above. He technically kind of had an ADU in his house, which where his sister lived. And an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It can be a separate part of the house, or it can be within the house. I can get really deep into the weeds if you really want to. But I think it's good for a town like ours, if there is a senior person that wants to have a person that lives with them, they can have their own separate little apartment. It's kind of like an in-law suite, which is on the front page of the newspapers, or it can be an au pair suite, which other people have, or a caretaker suite. The other uses of it is some people that have, and I can say larger homes, if there's snowbirds to get out to Florida, they can have a separate unit where a caretaker can take care of their house while they're gone. So if there's anything that anyone wants to add to that debate or discussion, please send an email to me, to Joe, to anybody. I also really like phone calls too. I'm a big phone call guy. The other thing that I think is going to be important to everybody in town, especially seniors, because everyone likes to get outside, is the purchase of Great Island. They closed on that on Cinco de Mayo, which is May 5th. We have a meeting next week on the 23rd to talk about, that's the first time I think we're going to see, it's either the 23rd, this Tuesday, or the 30th, to talk about the stables. And what's the stables in there, they need a special permit. For the new owner, needs a special permit to operate stables inside there. So we'll see how that discussion goes. There are also some houses in there that have to be leased, so we passed that or discussed that at our last meeting. The thing that's important, I think, to seniors and whatnot, it's a beautiful piece of property. I gotta believe that no one in this room has been there yet. I haven't been there yet. I have been there a couple different times. And the first initial plan is to try to get it open with parking and walking trails. This weekend, now that the boat club is open, there's a bunch of people that are walking around Pear Tree Point and Long Lake Point. And I think the people that walk dogs and walk on the streets, this sidewalk is dead center of the middle of the road. Because I come around a turn and there's a guy standing right there and he's not moving. And he's walking on the yellow line. So if we can do something like that on Pear Tree, on Great Island, that would be great. With regards to some of the bigger projects in town, Darien Commons is basically pretty much open in full force. All of their sidewalks are in. They connected it really from Chase Bank, which is on the corner of Norton Avenue, all the way down past Valvalas and the dry cleaners that's there. It's a brand new brick sidewalk that goes pretty much the same way. It does go in front of the dry cleaners, in front of that other little building, but it's now all connected. There's some workings and rumblings about going past the dry cleaners through down to the rest of it, and that's going to work. Next door to that, we have the Palmer's project, which is now called Heights Crossing. All those buildings are demolished and the sidewalks are really kind of sort of out of commission. What people are doing, and maybe we're going to put one of those little signs in the middle of the road, is people walk down on one side, cross over the street to the train station side, and walk on the sidewalk on that side. So it's not 100% connected, but there really is no traffic calming issues on Heights Road to get people to walk across the street. There might be a striped sidewalk at all, but that's something that I want to be able to have people do. There was something else I wanted to bring up on that one, and then with regards to Darien Commons, the space that's between the Citibank building and where Bob Alice is, that's the new driveway where Seymour's is. That's really, really active. It's the main driveway coming in and going out. We knew it was going to be active. I think it's more active than the people that built it thought. So they have professionals coming in to look at that driveway and maybe do some traffic calming issues there. If you ever go through the high school or ever go through the center, that shopping center, it becomes like a Belgian block section where you go up and over. That forces you to slow down. At the front door of the high school, they have that. In different spots, they have that. So you may see something there which more defines it. They've had a couple near misses in that process. With regards to the Corbin District downtown, Phase 1, which I call Phase 1, which is the east side of Corbin Drive, is basically done. All the construction bridges are down. Bank of America is open. There was a construction bridge around that protecting the sidewalk. That construction bridge is now down. And so that whole section of town is basically open. They are doing some Barrett bookstore moved in. There's another couple of shops that moved in. They're still doing some construction in the center building on that street, which is really the apartments above. If you need any additional further information, you can ask Jerry to come. She'd be able to tell you what else is going on there. But we're pretty excited about that. The big thing this is a new topic that I might need your help on. Up in Hartford, and we have a whole section of our meetings where we watch what's going on in Hartford with regards to the legislative session. They're still in session right now. There's three more weeks of legislative session. They've come up with these bills, and a lot of it has to relate to multifamily housing, and they kind of sort of target Darien. I watched a presentation where Governor Lamont specifically called out Darien, and he calls it suburban zoning. He wants to do something about that and make it more dense and create TOD districts around our train stations. Just for the record, we already have a TOD district, which is the Norotan Heights Overlay District. It's a TOD district around the Norotan Heights train station. We have a second one in the center of town called the Corbin Overlay District, which is a TOD district in the center of our town. The governor and the people want more of it. There's two bills that are out there. One's called Fair Share. There's another one that's called Work Ride. And there's a third one that's called, I think it's called the Rojas bill. He's the chairman or he's the leader of the House or the Senate. At the current status, and this is as of last Thursday, which is 6 days ago, they want to combine those three bills into one. and then pass it on to the state level. We had a conference hall, all the P&Z chairs, with all the reps from our districts, which is all of southwestern Connecticut, which is the towns that were involved were Greenwich, Darien, New Canaan, Wilton, Westport, Ridgefield. All of the chairmen of the P&Zs were on this call on Thursday, and all the state reps for all those districts were on that call. What the bottom line is, the legislation that they're proposing, in my opinion, in P&Z's opinion, and the town's opinion, is not good for the town of Darien. It took the town of Darien 20 years to approve and build 1,000, it's actually 968 apartment units in town. And it started with Avalon, and most recently finished with the 5-unit or 10-unit building at Corbin. That's a 20-year period. The fair share for Darien is supposed to be 6,000 units over 15 years. And the way they do that is they convert zoning around train stations to be 30 units an acre. And for the record, there are two TOD districts, which is Corbin and which is Norwood Heights overlay districts. Those are 14 units an acre. So that would be double what you see there. That would really change the demographics and the aspect of town. One of the persons on the phone call, he looked older than I am, right? And I'm 50-something. I started in this business when I was 10 years old. That's why I look so young. But he said that he lives in Greenwich. He said he just put his mother, or looked for his mother, put her into an assisted living place. And he said, you P&Z guys have to put these assisted living places near the center of town and near this and near transportation, not out in the woods, not in the sticks. And I said, excuse me, sir, we have an Atria assisted living place that is about 300 yards from Whole Foods. We have another one that's called Selleck Woods, which is about, I'm going to say 100 yards from Trader Joe's, Brian Post Road. And he goes, wow, I looked at 10 of them across the area and I didn't know that. So a lot of it's an education, but his point was he wanted more of those built in the state of Connecticut near transportation, near business districts, and that was his focus. There's this other thing with, I don't want to get too deep into weeds, it's with regards to moratoriums, and the state gives you bonus points if you build affordable housing and senior housing and other and assisted living housing. We don't get any points for building a Selleck Woods or an H or expanding it. He did not know that. He thought that if we built more, then we would get more these moratoriums, which are also called housing privacy points. So the takeaway from that is after this meeting, I'm going up to P&Z. We're going to write another letter to our Hartford delegation and say, please do not pass this. Let us do it ourselves, which goes to local control. We're one of the only towns that has built 1,000 units over this period of time and approved projects like Corbin District, like the Palmer's Project, like Darien Commons. And that includes what you call it, it's called the Heights, which is formerly El O'Neill, the Senior, the Royal, which was formerly called, was it?
Old Town
Homes, right? We built those. There's not a lot of towns that have done that. So with regards to that, we're also trying to invite, and I think it's working, Governor Lamont and the Director of Economic Development for the state of Connecticut, who's new. David Genovese met the woman, her name's Alexandra. We're going to have them come to Darien, give them a driving tour and say, this is what we did. If you leave it to the local people, the local developers, it can get done. If you put a bureaucrat on top of it, you're going to be stuck. One of their items was New Jersey did this about 10 years ago or 20 years ago. New Jersey has done fantastic at it. We came out with the sense, we know a lot of people are from New Jersey that moved to Connecticut. I personally don't know anybody that moved from Connecticut to New Jersey. I think we have great beaches. And also New Jersey is embroiled in 20 years of litigation with regards to their zoning, and I don't think we want to spend money on stuff like The last item that's on my list is, again, we're still talking about walkability and whatnot downtown. We're trying to connect, again, where the old Brooks Brothers is, all the way to Darien Sport Shop. The developers are on board. There's a gentleman that owns, Mr. Dulcetti, owns 2 Squab Lane. He may have a project that's going to be coming from P&Z soon. With that project, he's assured me that he's going to add sidewalks to them that are going to connect from that new building to the old Brooks Brothers, which he owns both. And then from that building to the old melting pot, which is owned by the Glassmeyer family, Glassmeyer Group. And then the developer of Black Taqueria and the old Darien movie theater, he is on board with doing work in his parking lot. And in his parking lot, what he's asked me is, if you ever go down the road, which is Grove Street, that needs to get repaved. And he goes, if you guys repave the road, I'll be happier than that. So I went to the people that decide what road gets paved first. There is a order of what it is. I don't know the numbers, but the town paves something like 5 miles of roads a year, and it's fungible. So we might try to see if we can get that road repaved faster.
Especially with oil prices coming down now you can pave a lot more. I mean, they
Right.
delayed the paving because of how high petroleum got.
That's exactly right. And as soon as the plants open this year, on April 1st, that's when they paved Hollow Tree Ridge Road right in front of Middlesex School. I mean, I think that was the day the plants opened, was the day they started that work. And it's amazing, that the sidewalks were done first and the road was done this year. They did it in 2 days during spring break. That's everything I had on my list. I was looking to see if there's any updates that you guys have for me.
I'm going to open it up for questions first, because before we do any updates, I want to hear questions, because this is our opportunity for folks to ask Steve questions. Questions?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
So with the second phase of Darien Commons opening, are they gonna have another lottery for the affordable, or did they just, the original lottery, do you know?
I think they already did it.
They did the original one,
yeah.
is that for the second phase?
I think it was all 16 in the same shot. Last I checked, that building was, I think 70% spoken for, and that included the 8 affordable units inside there.
Gotcha.
I think those 8 affordable, the persons were selected. They were going through the approval process on the state level, which is income and, I guess, background checks, but they had not moved in yet, and that's as of 14 days ago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I'm not sure I understand where the auxiliary housing is exactly. They come in front of you to request more lenient regulations? What is exactly happening there?
What happened was last year, or maybe it might have been 2 years ago, the state instituted a bunch of different policies for planning and zoning that we had to subscribe to. There was also opt-out provisions. One was parking. They wanted to reduce the parking for every single multifamily development for like 1 parking space per studio, 1 bedroom, like 1.5 for a 2-bedroom, and I think like 2 for a 2-bedroom. They also wanted to institute accessory dwelling units on a blanket policy on every multifamily, on every single family lot in the entire state. Each individual town had the opportunity to opt out of those provisions, and I think there was a 3rd one. I think it was supposed to be cannabis, but I think that went away. We opted out of parking because we drafted our own legislation, and we also opted out of accessory dwelling units on the state level because we wanted to draft our own. So right now, what we're doing is have debated in public twice. We've discussed it in public once, and I think, private multiple times on how to craft it. So right now, what we're doing is we're crafting accessory dwelling unit policy directly for the town of Darien, and I'm doing it. It's not anybody else. It's not a developer. We hired in our staff. We have 2 professional land planners, which is Jeremy and Fred, and then all the other gentlemen that are in that office and women that are in that office. We also subcontracted out to Dave Keating, who's the former zoning enforcement officer, who's also a professional land planner. So he's the author of the document. He's the one who typed his fingers on the computer. Where we're saying, you know, if it's a freestanding building, it could be 1,000 square feet. If it's inside a house, it could be 600 square feet. I mean, I love Gene Coyle. I think his sister's apartment, which didn't have a stove, so it was technically correct, but it was a separate unit, a separate front door. That was probably 500 square feet. I mean, I've told the story multiple times. When I came back from college, inside my parents' house, which was, I think, a 5 or 7 bedroom house, I had my own little apartment with my own separate door, and my mother wanted me there. She didn't want me to come to the other part of the house, because I came in at night, I left early, you know, and it had everything.
You were great, great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole thing. The only thing that I didn't have was I didn't have a stove or a refrigerator, but I didn't cook. I was out all the time, came in all the time. But the biggest issue in that, and also these small houses, is parking. Because if you have an ADU and it's a single loaded driveway, which I had, I could block in my dad on Saturday morning when he's going to play golf, and he couldn't get out. He would have to wake me up, you know, at 7 o'clock in the morning when I get in 5 o'clock in the morning. And so get out of bed and move your car.
Serves you right.
He couldn't,
Yeah, you can.
he couldn't leave him an extra set of keys?
You moved it anyway. So it's more fun waking me up. So what the way our legislation or our zoning code is drafted today is, if you have a 1 acre lot or zone lot or larger, the ADU is as of right, and you don't really, you have to file a building plan, you don't have to file a site plan. If your size is a ½ acre or smaller, it's subject to site plan review. So all you have to do is prove to us that you can get a driveway out, you don't block your driveway in, you have the parking, it's gonna work out. The most important thing to me is fire code. There are a lot of ADUs in town that may or may not have kitchens, but they do not have fireman windows. So they are under the radar screen, they're operating today, but it doesn't have a fireman window. If you read the
I'm
papers,
sorry, what is that?
a fireman window,
Yeah.
a fireman window, that a fireman can get in and out. There's other windows that are smaller, that are inside somebody's apartment, and they're not emergency
It says in
windows.
certain size?
Yeah.
An opening, okay.
I actually had it, I have a house up in Rhode Island, and I bought it as a 5-bedroom house. The 2 lower bedroom had small windows, and the fire marshal came by and said, these are illegal. And the house was built in 1985, and I got notified in 2015 that they were legal. So I replaced them. But there are fireman windows, and if somebody has a room that they convert to an apartment, and I just want to make sure that's a fireman room, whether it's a basement, or it's a garage, or it's anything. There's certain things you might see on the computer that says, you know, you can put the accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, and you can buy the thing online, and it's a kit, or you can buy a shed. That's illegal in the state of Connecticut because it does not conform to the building code. It's got to be a 4 seasons. It's going to be 4 seasons. It has to be insulated. It has to be on a foundation. So you can't go to a Kohler shed and put an 800 square foot in your backyard and make it an apartment. But it's something that I think that the senior population is going to want. And maybe it's for companionship. You know, maybe it's for someone to watch your house. Maybe it's for a caretaker. Maybe it's for your grandkid. But I think that's something that's good. But that's I think I kind of.
What's the time frame on that?
Our next thing, we're probably going to debate it internally one more time. I think the public hearing we're going for is July 11th. We want to have you have to have a public hearing if you're making a zoning change. At one point in time, we talked about having it at the end of July or the beginning of August or September. That's too far gone. So my push was to get it ready for the public on July 11th. We may have a second follow-up meeting. And there might be some good ideas that come out. the July 11th meeting or the July 18th meeting. But after it goes, P&Z, after a public hearing goes, then there could be a second public hearing, which I kind of sort of like that, because if you have the first public hearing, people may not show up, but it makes the front page of the papers, and then, well, we have another one, and it's on whatever date it is. And then we'll probably wrap it up in September and have it enacted by October 1st.
And once it's enacted by P and Z, it's done.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So no selectmen, no RTM, good.
Nope.
Next question, have you seen any opposition to it?
No.
Awesome.
There's a couple of tweaks that we're trying to figure out is, there's a lot of existing pool houses or garages that are on 5 feet from the property line, which is legal. It's 100% legal. Those are primed to get converted to to accessory dwelling units. But the debate that we have now is, should that be on the 5-foot property line or the 15-foot property line? That's where the question is, because, we approved, last year, I don't know for a fact, we approved like 2 pool houses. One was a pool house, one was a garage. And the gentleman with the garage, it might have been a pool house, designed it so at Thanksgiving, he could have an extended family come over and sleep there. And it's 100% legal. It is 100% legal, but it does not have a stove. As soon as you put a stove in it, it becomes an accessory dwelling unit. The thing that would break my heart is if the guy wants to put a stove in there and it's on the 5-foot line, and he can't. So is he gonna move it? No. So that's where the debate comes in.
So what's the split on that so far?
I think it's 50-50.
Wow. It's just a question of these units that are on the 5-foot line, those people who are watching on TV 79 might want to show up.
Great.
Because they're gonna need to advocate for that question as to their ability to make that change, put the oven in. Beyond the oven, is there any other difference between the pool house and the ADU?
No.
Okay. So the oven is the breaking point.
The oven is the breaking point, but remember, going back to what I was saying earlier, if you have a pool house and it doesn't have fireman windows,
Right.
then you're gonna convert it, you can put it in the kitchen, but the building department's gonna say, this is a fireman window, and you can say, no, it's a little small window, it's at the dressing room, it was storage. Okay, now, take out that window, go to Rains End, buy a big window, and then you're fine.
Right.
That's what the building department comes in.
Got it.
Is a microwave considered an oven?
Nope. You can have a microwave, you can have a toaster, you can have a coffee maker, you can have an air fryer, you can have a refrigerator, you can have a freezer.
You can get a stovetop convection oven, it's the same thing.
But see, that's dead serious, that's what I'm trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Because you can do that, and the windows might not be a fireman window.
Right.
And so if you have that, and someone's living there today, and it's not a fireman window, and you leave the coffee maker on, and it burns to the ground. So I'm trying to get some of these out of the shadows, right? So someone looks at it, because there's been plenty of plans that have come in, and it'll go, wow, it's a great bedroom, and then it's much storage. And you're like, okay, is that storage? Where's the bedroom? Well, it's storage today.
I have a question.
Sure.
One time you said stove, also there's been the word oven tossed around. There are actually 2 separate. What is it? Is it the heating unit, the coils that heat the food, or is it because
I think it's the oven.
it's the oven?
Yeah.
Isn't that a microwave also, because that's what a microwave does?
I think it's got to be hardwired into the house.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's your,
There you go.
Yeah.
So you can run to Home Depot and get your microwave oven, but you can't go to your contractor and put in an oven.
Exactly.
I use my Instant Pot, so that's my choice.
Yeah. My whole big thing on this, Joe, is safety.
Yeah. I agree.
It's 100% safety.
So, an oven and a fireman's window are the 2 keys to an ADU, and currently being 15 feet off the property line.
And the other big thing is parking.
Right.
I mean, we debated back and forth between ½ acre and 1 acre. The 1 acre held out because most 1 acre parcels have more access and more parking. A ½ acre may have it, I don't know. I mean, I have a double-sided driveway, and I'm a third of an acre. But, I blocked in my son this morning when he was going off to school.
Sure.
I was already awake, so he had to wake me up. Let him out. But that, to me, those are the big items. And so if you conform to all three of those, then we'll be good.
Well, it's a huge deal for Darien. To be able to get that done by September will be fantastic, so. We'll plan on being there on July 11th with somebody from our board.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. Other questions?
Yeah, I've got a non-ADU question.
Sure.
A number of seniors have asked about sidewalks beyond the Corbin and Heights districts. Is there any mechanism in place to review sidewalks for, raised stone, trees, things of that sort?
There definitely is.
Okay.
A lot, the sidewalk replacement program is headed up by Public Works, and they do have a plan to do like the town-wide. Like I said earlier, relative to roads and sidewalks. There's a pecking order. I don't know what the pecking order is. I can tell you that they have focused on central business districts and schools. So kids can walk to school, which is really going to be a mile from a school, and then the central business district. I mean, I think that one of the most visible ones that started, and it was a long time ago, was West Avenue. They did it all the way from West Avenue on Stanford border, straight all the way to the Darien train station. And that's, maybe that's neither. I don't know, but I know it's on either side of Rings End. He used to be a first selectman. I don't know.
So if somebody is concerned about sidewalks, should they contact Public Works
Yes.
and have them? Okay.
Yeah. We don't make the pecking order. What P&Z does is we ask developers of new projects to put them in. And 99.9% of them, they say yes. There's only one time I think the guy said no. And he didn't do the project.
Good, thanks.
Other questions? Hearing none.
This was easy.
You always make it easy. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to stick for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to take off. I know you're a busy man, though.
I want to run upstairs
There
and
you
do
go.
a legislative meeting with Jeremy.
Good stuff.
And if serious on that issue, I don't know if you contact your senators or reps,
That may be our next topic. We'll see.
please do. We need your help.
Okay.
And we need it. We need it now because the legislative session closes in 3 weeks.
Fair enough.
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.
Hope to see you again soon.
Great, thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate that. Great. Before we jump into that, I know I have some old business. Chris, give us an at-home in Darien. What's going on?
Okay, well, Beth touched on the event tomorrow that we're co-sponsoring, and everything's in place. Beth has gotten all sorts of decorations and a 50s theme, the Elderly Brothers, so we're all very excited about that. We've got a great showing. We're going to have a lot of our board members are going to be there, so it should be a lot of fun. And I want to just make mention, Ally touched on it, something we're working on together. And I think it really speaks to this town and the organizations in the town, but we interact with each other ongoing, and you tend to lose sight of those types of discussions, but what they mean on a bigger picture. We had a senior who, one of the organizations in town, had some dialogue with us about some issues, and we wound up, our driver talked about it internally, we talked to Ally, Ally's team got involved, and there were some significant issues there with this individual. And Ally and her team really stepped in and addressed those, and without going into details, it was kind of, to this point, kind of a game changer, but I would think in some other situations in other towns, that person would be on their own and be kind of helpless to livability. So just a plug for some of the organizations, the Mather Center and Human Services and some of the other organizations. So that's fun. As far as our business, I think last time I said first quarter we were up 75% in transportation year over year. When you look at January through April now, we're up 92% year over year. So that's a great thing. We're getting new riders, and that's fun. And I think that trend is only going to continue. So that's good. And volunteers too. We've had a number of volunteers who've stepped up and reached out to us. So I think our communications to the community are helping, and those volunteers are doing everything from shopping and all the things that we talk about. We worked with the Royal School, the Royal Kids Care Club, and they made 30-some pots, spring pots that they decorated, and we had our volunteers deliver those to seniors. So that was exciting. We did that last week. So all good, thanks.
Awesome. Any questions for Chris? Hearing none. Old business, Peter, what's going, I know we got the legislative session, but my first question to you is, we heard about this big question relating to fair share, et cetera. Has the AARP taken any position on that?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Good enough. I'll let you keep going. Thank you, sir.
So we're coming down to the wire, and of course what we're looking at is a 2-year, $50.9 billion budget, just to wrap your arms around how big that is, right? And the days of public hearing are over, and so now the legislature is deciding among themselves about what they need to accomplish. And I think it's fascinating, but on May the 5th, there were 258 House bills and 242 Senate bills that were still not resolved. So this is all going to be coming together, if you will. This is where the sausage is going to be made. And again, for AARP and the issues, there's some real concerns here. Because we know now that, for example, nursing homes, where we said we wanted 4.1 hours per person in a nursing home, it's been rejected. And the unions are really putting the heat on. And last night, I just saw this. If you folks get the, if you get any of the Connecticut paper, the Connecticut Mirror, Connecticut hospital staffing measure shifts away from mandated ratios. In other words, they're trying to push away from mandated ratios in the hospital. And there's going to be a union strike, possibly, on 1,700 members of the nursing service workers to strike against 6 agencies that run group homes for 1,500 disabled clients. So this is not good. This is really, really not good. The AARP money, all of that money on the table is finished at the end of this year. And I guess, Ali, you'll certainly be talking about the end of PHE, Public Health Emergency, because again, as those funds go away, we go back to what we had before or variations of it, and it's going to affect, I'm sure, a lot of programs that the town runs.
Well, even food stamps, I know that they had
Sorry?
food stamps like SNAP, that they had during COVID increased the amount that people would
Right.
have some benefit, and now they've already decreased it.
Still moving ahead are things like early voting, absentee ballots, firearm safety, but again, we don't know how all of that's going to end up. So again, if you have a particular cause in mind, it's time to again reach out to your legislators, but they're now talking among themselves. I wish I could be more definitive there, but
No, I
that's
get it.
about
That's
where it
very
is. SWACA, we had our meeting this last week. Again, the disappearance of ARPA funds at the end of the year going to impact what SWACA can do. Greenwich is a program where it's shopping for seniors now, and they've been moving that forward, and that looks quite interesting. But again, Greenwich is a town of 60,000 people. I heard that farmers markets are moving from coupons to cards.
The senior farmer
Yeah.
market nutrition program?
Right.
News
So,
to me.
and
We get them in July, or late June,
Yeah.
July.
So that might, again, change how, again, people get their farming thing. And somebody's going to start looking at digital supermarket issues with coupons. And they're going to be meeting with chains like Stop and Shop, because these supermarkets are going to digital coupons. And guess what? A lot of us older folks don't have phones that can handle digital. And so you're really cutting out a benefit there. And so we're gonna see what can be done. SWAC is gonna see what can be done in that arena.
It'd be nice if they could figure out a way, if you're, pick an age, 60 or 65 or whatever, that you would automatically qualify for those coupons. That any digital coupon would automatically.
That's a great idea, Joe. Yeah.
The old-fashioned way where they have Stop Shop flyers and the coupons right there, and you just rip them off.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's
Really
not
easy.
fair to seniors, many of whom are not cell phone savvy, right? Speaking as one who's about to be 60 and is not cell phone savvy myself, that would be, whatever we can do to push on that, let us know, because I think that's where we really need to say, okay, you're giving these digital coupons to your younger savvy, tech savvy clients. Why aren't these seniors getting this exact same benefit if they're buying the exact
Yep.
same product?
I actually visited Stop and Shop one day, and there was a digital coupon, and it was also there in print next to me. And I said to the checkout person, I said, why didn't I get the discount on this, the coupon discount? And she said, oh, you have to log into, the app, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, well, I don't really want to do that right now. Is there some way you can override it? And she did.
Good.
So there is, if you have the conversation and you're, on top of your coupons, you probably can get them to do it manually, at least in the meantime while we navigate this.
But those are the things that kind of unfold really quickly, get in place, and again, there's neglect here of a whole class of people that don't have the access to it.
We see it also with Major League Baseball, NFL, all the tickets now are digital.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
luck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
to take your father to the game, you better have a cell phone, take 2 tickets on your freaking cell phone, you might not be able to get them in. It's true.
And then the last thing with SWACA is the agency summit on October 20th is moving ahead. I'm on part of that planning, I'm on the housing part of planning, and actually what we're looking at is something called municipal visioning, so that we could maybe see about how somebody can be visionary in housing. And I've reached out to David Genovese. I haven't heard back from him yet.
No.
I wonder why. I'll tell him.
That's a great strategy.
So
Peter.
that's, and again, they're expecting 300 to 400 people, so it's going to be an important program. Yeah. Finally, close up with the library and tax aid. I'll just read you this paragraph and I'll give you a copy of this. At the library, we filed over 1,350 returns, an amazing 22% growth over last year and continuing the average 20% per year compound growth we've experienced since starting a decade ago. These returns provided $700,000 in credits, earned income, child tax, and education to clients, in addition to saving at least $370,000 in commercial preparation fees. Not included in these figures are the library's patrons who opted to file directly with us using our virtual site. So again, and that would not have happened if the library wasn't such a strong advocate of this program and had so many people backing it up.
That's awesome. Those numbers don't lie. Good stuff. That's
So,
great. Thank you. Any questions for Peter? So my only question is whether, and the reason why I asked the question about AARP's position vis-a-vis the TOD housing is if the AARP is not taking a position on that, okay, that is suggested that there are a lot of both sides questions. Obviously, we've got PNC saying, oh, heck no, this would be a disaster, we're into litigation, everything else. The flip side of that, though, is, yes, we've built 968 units over 20 years. Great, but not 6,000 units over 15 years. And we just heard from Beth before she hired her wonderful person how hard it is to get employees in Darien because of how hard it is for the housing in Fairfield County, right? So I'm of a position, and I obviously don't speak for the commission, but quite frankly, with 3 weeks to go to see how it plays out, because A, I don't think we're gonna be that effective. B, I'm not sure we can find consensus today on this question, because I think we'll have people on both sides of the issue as to should we have more dwelling units. Now, I know in Darien, people are looking at me at TV 79, you're an idiot, Pankowski, perhaps. But at the end of the day, there are arguments on both sides of this issue relating to whether there should be more dwelling units in Darien, Greenwich, New Canaan, and other places in Fairfield County where people have a hard time commuting, as we see on 95 and the Merritt every day. So does anybody want to be heard on advocating? Because if we're going to do it, as he said, it's 3 weeks. So if we're going to do it, I'm glad to open it up to anybody who wants to advocate or say we shouldn't on this question.
I think what we have to remember, there are 169 towns in this state,
Right.
and with varying, transportation issues, senior center issues, and it's awfully hard to reach some type of a consensus. And again, personally, I think, for example, county government would have really helped us like they have in other states.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, you go from 169 to 1, that's a huge gap, right,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
No question.
Yeah, and that's what we have in this state.
Right.
For better or for worse, that's what's happened. So again, we've all put our words out, we all have our reps. I mean, we know who they are. Senator Majority Leader Duff represents this town.
Yeah.
4 members of the legislature.
Yeah, it sounds like something, if you're passionate about it, reach out on your own.
Exactly.
And so, as opposed to a commission position where.
Exactly.
Okay, we're cool with that? Consensus, great, love it. Other old business. Other new business.
I just wanted to bring up, I brought this, and I was hoping to be able to download the whole survey, as Steve mentioned, the town of Fairfield, which I am a resident of. They're doing an age-friendly survey by the Center for Social Impact from Fairfield University. I actually took it. It is for livable communities. It took me about 25 minutes to get through it myself, but it wouldn't let me give a copy because I would have put it in here. We have a very good relationship with Fairfield University as well, so there would be probably if they want to look into the future. But what I experienced from taking it is something that Peter says a lot. The questions were about public works, were about parks and recreation, they were about the way the government is basically implemented, commissions and boards, volunteerism, about living situations like what would be a senior concern if you're not a senior taking it. As you got older, how long do you think you'll be in town? Accessibility. It ran the gamut. They did the students did a really good job. But it shows that you don't really get livable community. Oh, the questions about health were wonderful, about dementia, being in a wheelchair eventually. They hit every avenue of concern that you could possibly have. My hope is that many people that are residents in the town of Fairfield, which I'm going to advocate for, take the survey, because this is the problem with not only looking at one aspect, like looking about is there enough housing? Okay, is there enough housing for what? And how are you going to be able? What are your resources to be able to establish that housing? And you're talking about Fairfield is more like a city than it is like a town, even though it's still designated as a town. So I'm gonna keep on this so that I can bring more information to you. But it's something that we really, if we're gonna start moving forward as even a commission, or you as a commission, you have to have all those players. It can't be just, and it has to be really politically motivated too. Your government has to be really at the lead and want to have this information, because once you get all this information, you have to do something with it. So the social service agency, it's amazing how they encompassed all these questions. But when they come with the results, they're actually going to have to do something about it.
You have a lot more faith in that than I do.
Yes, I also know the government in Fairfield too, and the motivation of somebody who wants to politically extend their life in the political arena and rise up in the ranks, because that has something to do with it as well. We have, be realistic.
Right.
The person that's there right now is extremely motivated.
Nice.
But this partnership between Fairfield University, which we enjoy on many different levels, nursing, social work, and even the Center for Social Impact. So that's something to consider in the future if we ever wanted to do a more comprehensive survey. You know, just to give us information, not to put pressure on anybody, but to give us information. So I thought it was quite interesting. And livable communities are going to be the thing of the future that we're going to be all talking about, even at a state level, as it relates specifically to cognitive issues and people with cognitive disability, because we're all going to be dealing with that. So
It happened in Greenwich, thanks to Lori. And again, you need a champion. And again, I talked to selectmen present and previous, and they chose not to do it. They said, you do it. And I said, no, Peter Etter doesn't do it. Your leading politicians have to do it, and they chose not to. But you're absolutely right, the benefits are remarkable. The benefits are remarkable. And one other point, you're blessed that you have a university in your town, and this is one of the things that we hope that at home in Darien will do. I mean, we don't have a university in town, but we have 4,000 people. We should be able to get a Fairfield. We should be able to get a Sacred Heart. We should be able to get UConn and Stanford. We should be able to make those connections. They all have gerontology programs. They all have research programs. They all have social services programs. And again, to build those connections, not just to do the surveys, but as you say, but then to generate some output. It's very important.
for sure, we have a really good relationship with Sacred Heart as well, social work, OT, and PT. And we have a very good relationship with Fairfield University Nursing that comes in on a regular basis. But yes, and not state. I mean, might reach out to UConn, because not UConn, and UConn's right in Stanford. But that
NCC?
NCC, yeah, NCC, we've reached out to NCC and have not gotten much cooperation at this particular point in time, so I think they were in transition when we were reaching out. When I was here earlier on, believe it or not, I had a really good relationship with NCC's journalism school. We did a lot of programming with them. But that's, and now we're gonna be doing this website link with media. So, yeah, for sure. But it is really important, the information that you get. But one of the things I'll say about these surveys is that even though you need the political will for it, the wonderful thing is that the department heads, that are the professionals that are dealing in a town with all of these issues, are the people that put these questions forth. So they went to the people who actually do the day in and day out work and know the nuance and, you know, all the little pitfalls and all of the kind of things that they have to face when they're implementing or looking at implementing some new change. So that's really good. So even though the political will moves it, then you go to your professionals. You go to Ally, you talk to Ed Gentile, you talk to Steve, you talk to all of these people, and the questions would come from, you know, what they're looking at, what their vision is. So.
Great. Other new business?
In new business, Joe,
Yeah.
I missed last month's meeting, and I know that we've scheduled a discussion for next month on whether or not this commission should take a point of view on the issue of assisted suicide or euthanasia, or whatever you'd like to call it. I would like to suggest, and by the way, that bill did not pass, and it was defeated for the 22nd year in a row. But you know what? The question for our commission is broader than that, I think, because we're talking about a series of moral judgments, all focused on terminating lives unnaturally. So what I mean by that, it's abortion, it's euthanasia, it's death sentence for felons, and it could even be pacifism in war. I think if we're going to address one piece of it, the assisted suicide, then we should look at the whole spectrum and say, should we do in one piece or should we do four? And again, I think that might determine what we
Being
want
the
to say.
Commission on Aging, I think our role would be, the end of life issue rather than getting involved with abortion, say, or pacifism. I mean, I mean, we do have a focus of aging.
Well, as I said, again, my feeling is there's a moral judgment that frames that issue and the surrounding issues. And so, yeah, we can talk about it more next month.
So what I'm gonna do, okay, fair enough, thank you for that. So what we're gonna do is that, I'm glad you both raised that, because I do want everybody to look at this issue carefully for the next month. This will be our topic in June, main topic. We are all not experts in this field, but the wonderful thing about this commission is we listen to each other. We don't throw invective, we don't do this, we always are very conscious. Only Washington could be like this, right? So we'll talk it through, okay? We may not find consensus, okay? And I quite frankly don't think we will, but I think it's important that we are able to have a good, honest discussion about this question. And that will be our topic in June. So, any other, yes, sir?
Yeah, it's back to this topic, and I think it was just yesterday, it was in the paper. And I don't know if it's the US Supreme Court or if it's a state Supreme Court, but a prisoner survived lethal injection execution. So now he is requesting assisted suicide. So this is, just to give you,
Sure.
so many different, you would never even comprehend that would be folded into this.
No question.
But it'll be interesting because that, once you start getting legal points where you're having precedent set in cases, at least that gives some guidance as to, how this may or may not go.
Yeah,
But
there's
it's so
no
complex.
doubt there's a slippery slope argument which will be made next month, I have no doubt,
Yeah.
as to what's happened in Europe and things of that nature. So I look forward to the discussion. It should be quite interesting. So I ask everybody, as I will be doing your research and bring stuff to the table so we can have a great discussion next month. Any other business for the Commission on Aging? Yes, sir. Tom?
I'd just like to add one thing to Beth's presentation. The wood shop's doing really well.
Nice.
Down in the senior center. And we only have it open one day a week right now, but we're getting more and more volunteers. So I'm hoping that we can open it more than just one day. And we look forward to that. So I just want to add that.
Awesome.
That's
Boy, I love it. I love ending on that note. That's about as
Yeah.
good as it gets, Tom. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Any other business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. A second. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in June.